Oh, hello. I figured we could chat a little bit about the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is an ancient Indian text. Approximately 300 BC is when it was written. So 2,300 years ago. A little bit after the Buddha, a little bit before Jesus. So we're in that sweet spot of those 600 years. About 300 years before Patanjali compiled all things yoga. Distinctly, this is a conversation about Advaita, A-D-V-A-I-T-A, non-dualism. All things yoga are in that non-dualistic conversation. What's non-dualism? Oneness. And that's yoga. Yoga, union, oneness. And so the Bhagavad Gita is really a story of yoga and of oneness. It has been translated thousands of times. It's been translated by Paramahansa Yogananda, Sai Baba, Eknath Easwaran, Jack Hawley. You name it, they've translated it. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And I even have my little Srimad Bhagavad Gita. I got this at an airport in Delhi, actually. And so there are so many different translations and different versions. Some of them are very, very Western. Some of them are very, very religious. Some of them are very insightful or philosophical. And that's why I always suggest, if you're going to really explore the Bhagavad Gita, get a few different translations of it, because everybody sees it a little differently. Albert Einstein read the Bhagavad Gita every single day. Imagine that. So did Emerson, so did Thoreau, so did Gandhi. And I've read the Bhagavad Gita every single day since 2003. And that has been just a beautiful opportunity for me to dive into timeless wisdom, as well as sometimes just come up with new questions to ponder over the course of the day. Supposedly, all the answers to life's deepest questions are contained in the Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes you come away with more questions than answers. Sometimes you come away with more answers. You never know. Sometimes I'll just pick it up and flip through and suddenly just open up to a particular, here, chapter 12, verse 5. For those who are absorbed in the invisible one face excessive tribulation. As for embodied beings, the path of that course is difficult to tread. So, yeah, we could think about that for a couple of months. And the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita, it's the song of the Lord. Bhagavad, the Lord, Gita, the song. It's the song of the Lord. 18 chapters, 700 verses. And the beauty of the Gita, well, there are so many beauties of the Gita, but it seems to be broken down 6 chapters at a time. 3 groupings. The first 6 chapters are about karma, action. The second 6 chapters are about devotional love, bhakti. And the final 6 chapters are about gyan, knowledge, wisdom. There are so many ways that we could dive into the Gita, which is its nickname. We could actually spend our entire lives just reading these 700 verses and going deeper and deeper and deeper into them. And so in today's session, I don't expect to answer all of the questions that we have of the Bhagavad Gita. But what I have done, when I first started exploring the Gita back in 2003, I bought 10 copies of it and I scattered it around my house. I had one in my tool shed, one in my car, one on my nightstand, one in my kitchen, one in my dining room, one in the bathroom, one in my living room, one on my deck. And wherever I was, I would just pop it open and read a verse and then ponder that. I still do that today. I read a verse of the Gita every single day after I meditate. It helps sort of kind of set my trajectory for the day. And I would encourage you to do the same thing. You don't have to buy 10 copies of the Gita, but you might want to begin really exploring it, because if you've ever read the Gita and perhaps you've said, it's 2,300 years old, it's not vibing with me, or I'm not vibing with it, perhaps it's a translation. And so get another translation. And there are so many translations, so I would encourage you to do that. Now we can take on the Gita and say, okay, let's explore those first 6 chapters, or the second 6 chapters, or the third 6 chapters. And we will. I'll talk just a little bit about those categories. But what is the conversation? Like, why would we care about the Gita? So the Bhagavad Gita takes place on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, sort of like in northwestern India. And it's happening thousands of years ago. And there are 2 armies on this battlefield. And sort of like sitting on his chariot, despondent, crying, frozen with fear, is Arjuna. Arjuna, supposedly the greatest warrior of all time. Born to be a warrior. Born to lead his people. And he gazes across the battlefield. And as he looks at the opposing army, he sees all these members of his family, his schoolmates, his teachers, those who he played sports with growing up, people he is very fond of. And he's struggling. It's sort of like a Hatfields versus McCoys kind of scenario. Arjuna was supposed to be the prince who elevated to head the kingdom. But his father has remarried, and the woman that he's remarried has sons, and she wants her sons to ascend to the throne. So his father acquiesced to that request. And here they are. They're trying to push him out. They're trying to obliterate him. So he's fighting for survival. He's fighting for what he knows is his next progression. But he can't do it. He's at a crossroads in life. And that's why the Bhagavad Gita is so powerful, because it's the original crossroads of life conversation. Fork in the road conversation. Have you ever felt, should I stay or should I go? Have you ever felt, should I take this opportunity or should I just sit back? Have you ever felt, I think I've overstayed my welcome here? Or maybe I can make something new out of this? Have you ever felt like you were down a rabbit hole, but uncertain of whether to turn back? To acknowledge, well, that was a dead end. Let me explore something else. Have you ever questioned your why, your meaning, your purpose in life? Have you ever wondered what comes after this? So many questions we could ask ourselves, and they all are answered in the Bhagavad Gita. In those 700 verses, the answer to virtually every single question you could ever ask is contained in there. It's pretty powerful. So here Arjuna sits on the battlefield looking out at the opposing forces that oppose him, perhaps 20,000 soldiers, and his head is in his hands. He is despondent, does not want to fight, the greatest warrior of all time, and he doesn't want to fight. Does not want to fulfill his duty, his dharma, his purpose. The word dharma goes back to these ancient times. In fact, it has the root, dhri, D-H-R-I, which means that which upholds. So your dharma is sort of like the foundation. Like, why are you here? What are you here to do right now? Why are you on this planet right now? What is your life about right now? And the translation, if we look at the Gita, the translation is duty. What's your duty? You may think, oh, I'm making sacrifices in my life right now, but the Bhagavad Gita would say, quite honestly, no, it's your duty to show up and do these things right now. Are you taking care of an aging relative? Are you stepping away from your work and taking care of your child instead, or someone that you love? Are you putting your head down and powering through some job, some career, some process because you're looking at the end game and you need to show up and do these things? A lot of times that we say, I'm making big compromises here, or I'm making big sacrifices here. We need to ask the question, well, what is your duty? What are you here right now to do? And if you're doing something that's noble, or that requires you to just keep leaning into it in spite of what you might otherwise be wanting to do, but you have to show up and do this thing, that's essentially, buck up, Arjuna. Do your duty. So as Arjuna sits in the middle of this battlefield, suddenly a charioteer comes riding up to him with 5,000 soldiers behind him. Pretty amazing. Rides right up to Arjuna, whose head is in his hands. And he's like, hey, what's going on? Arjuna says, well, I'm the greatest warrior of all time. And here I sit. I'm supposed to lead my forces against these forces. But I don't want a warrior. I don't want to do that. I see too many people who I love and care about. I see too many faces of people I know. Last thing I want to do is bring violence against them. So I'm torn. I'm at a crossroads. And the charioteer says, whew, that's a tough one. I get it. Well, I'm the greatest charioteer in the world. So I've got a proposition for you, Arjuna. How about you can either have me as your charioteer in this war, or you can have my 5,000 soldiers and I'll go over to the other side. So would you rather have me and my soldiers go to that side, or would you rather have my soldiers and I'll go to that side? You pick. And Arjuna says, I don't need more soldiers. I need clarity. I need answers. I need to understand at a deeper level. So I'll take you, charioteer, and the soldiers can go over to the other side. And so the charioteer says, dude, brilliant call, because I'm God. I'm Krishna. And so he sends his troops over to the other side. And the rest of the Bhagavad Gita is the original conversations with God. Arjuna talking to God. Arjuna talking to Krishna. Asking him the deepest questions about life and death and purpose and meaning. And so imagine all 700 verses, all 18 chapters, to help us better understand all the nuances of life, how we're supposed to respond to the peaks and valleys of all these different issues that we all experience in life. It's a powerful conversation with God. Neil Donald Walsh wrote the book, Conversations with God. And the original version of that is 300 BC on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. It's meant to be a metaphor. So you don't have to be a follower of any particular religion to get it and understand it. You don't have to be devotional or devout. You don't even have to believe in God. Everything is metaphorical. because we're all, at some point in our life, at a crossroads, at a fork in the road, struggling with a big decision, asking ourselves, is now the moment that we're going to take that step? So we can look at the Gita through a very philosophical lens. We can look at it through a devotional lens. We can look at it through a conscious choice-making lens. And one of the beautiful aspects, if we're looking at it through a spiritual lens, is that we realize that the path to spiritual awakening is not just sitting in a cave with your eyes closed. As I mentioned before, the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita is about karma, which is action. There's not good karma or bad karma. Karma just means action. And so we are gifted with a deep dive into the concept of performing action without concern to outcomes. Essentially, karma in the Bhagavad Gita is about performing selfless service. So it's not about sitting in a cave and meditating. It's about sitting in a cave and meditating, getting really clear, and then performing action. Sort of teaching us how to sit down and then rise up. It was Viktor Frankl, it's attributed to Viktor Frankl. Not sure if he actually said it, but it's been attributed to him. Viktor Frankl is the Austrian philosopher, psychologist, and Holocaust survivor. In between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our ability to choose. In that choice rests our growth and our freedom. And so the Bhagavad Gita is really the initial conversation about that. If we just go to chapter 2, verse 48, when Arjuna says to Krishna, to God, how am I supposed to live my life? How am I supposed to walk through the world? Krishna responds to him, Yogastha kuru karmani. Yogastha, establish yourself in the present moment. Kuru karmani, then perform action. So we are told very early in the going, we're supposed to get still, but we're supposed to act. And this verse follows, and don't be attached to inaction. We are told, if you're on a spiritual journey, you must take action. Which is contrary to a lot of the conversations that we have. A lot of times in spiritual communities, the response is, it's all good. It's all good. Well, the Bhagavad Gita 2,300 years ago says, get still, get clear, get impeccable with your thoughts, words, and actions, and then take action. And if we go back just in one more verse to chapter 2, verse 47, this is where we're truly taught that all of our action should be detached from our awareness of outcome. Think about that. We have total control. This is what chapter 2, verse 47 says. We have total control over our actions and no control over the fruit of those actions. And we spend so much time in the fruit. In fact, in his translation, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada says, to not ever assume that the effect of your action was caused by you. It's a pretty powerful concept. You may think, no, I'm doing this thing. Of course I made the outcome happen. Let's even see if we can pop that open for a second, just to chew on that for a moment. If we looked into chapter 2, verse 47, Here's his translation. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. That line, never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities. How powerful is that? Because we do. But everything is a co-creation according to the Bhagavad Gita. We win the race and we are instantly, look what I did. As if you did it alone. Who's the person who seamed your sneakers together so you could run the race? Who's the person who created the device that you used to time yourself as you ran? Who's the people who encouraged you and supported you along that journey? Who are the farmers who grew the food and then shipped it here and then trucked it here and then someone put it on the shelf and then maybe someone else even shopped and got it for you so you could be nourished? And here you are at the end of the race. Check it out. Look what I did. And so when we assume that we are the ones responsible for every single outcome, that goes contrary to the Gita. It reminds us everything's a co-creation. And yes, we have total control of our own actions and no control over the fruit of them. You could run the best race ever, but someone else could run it a little faster than you and win it. And so in chapter 2, the whole understanding is really laid out. It's a conversation of action. And this is really the first of the 4 yogas that are revealed in the Bhagavad Gita. There are 4 yogas, 4 paths to oneness. Think about that. 4 different ways that we can merge with the divine, that we can come up with all the answers. Advaita, non-dualism, oneness, yoga, union. And that first path is karma yoga. If we live a life of karma yoga, selfless service, where everything we do is in service to others. Asking ourselves when we wake up each morning, how can I help others? How can I heal others? How can I serve others using my unique gifts and my special talents, my native energies? How can I help, heal, and serve others? We can go back to 1942, 1947, when Abraham Maslow originally created his hierarchy of needs, that theory of motivation. And he said that we are innately wired to fulfill certain needs. First, our physiological needs, right? Eating, drinking, peeing, pooping, sleeping, having a roof over our head, being warm, breathing air. According to Maslow, that next level up in the hierarchy, safety and security. We need to feel safe. Above safety and security is love and belongingness, but according to this theory of motivation, we can't actually meet our needs of love and belongingness if that lower level of needs is not being worked on. And we can't feel safe if that lower level of needs isn't being worked on. So we need to know that we're not thirsty or hungry or have to pee or have to poop or haven't had sleep or starving for air or feeling very, very cold. If we're any of those things, we can't even feel safe. We can't move to that next level. If we're not feeling safe, if we can't leave our homes without getting shot at, if we can't go to work without feeling scared, if we can't feel safe in a relationship, how in the world can we experience love and belongingness? And love and belongingness is that attention that we so crave and desire, the affection we so need, the acceptance so important to us, the acknowledgement that we so desire. And if that's being worked on, we can move to the next level, which is esteem. Our social needs. We all want to be included. We all want to feel like we're part of something bigger than us. whether that's your religion, your belief system, your politics, your community, your team, your favorite musical group. We all want to feel that we're included. And so between those two realms of the needs of love and belongingness and our social and esteem needs, it's a blend of what I refer to as the needs of the heart, the 4 A's: attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. We crave those. We need them so desperately. They help us feel validated. But according to Maslow, if we can meet our physiological needs, or at least be working on them, if we can then meet our needs of safety and security, or at least be working on them, if we can meet our needs of love and belongingness and at least be working on them, and we can meet our social needs of esteem, or at least be working on them, we can move to the next level, the top level, the 5th level, which is self-realization. Peak experiences. Art, beauty, creativity. 20 years after Maslow actually wrote his theory of motivation. This was really in his creative jam from 1942 to 1947. 20 years later, he had an epiphany, an aha moment. He said, you know, that top realm, that self-realization, grouping of needs, there's another component to it, even beyond that. And it's called transcendence. And he didn't mean transcending this world or merging with the divine. For him, transcendence was living a life of service to others. 2,300 years after the Bhagavad Gita, 2,300 years after we suddenly are looking at this concept of karma yoga, selfless service, as a path to merge with the divine, as a path to commune with God, as a path to experience oneness, heaven on earth. Maslow said, if we can live a life of service, helping others, healing others, serving others, using our own unique gifts and our own talents, then we will truly self-realize. Powerful, powerful conversation. Chapter 2 of the Gita really explores so many different aspects and sort of like lays out the whole, it's the Gita in a nutshell. If someone said to me, pick a chapter, you can only pick one of the 18 to fully describe whatever's going on, it would be, for me, chapter 2. There's such depth and such richness within chapter 2. But just our understanding of action, that it's not all about us just doing something to feel good, but that we can live lives of deep service to others and be fully actualized in that process. The Gita talks about 3 other yogas or paths to commune with God, to truly merge. Karma yoga is one, but let's say you weren't going to live a life of selfless service. Anything else I could do to merge with the divine? That would be bhakti yoga, devotional love. Be devotional to something bigger than yourself. Truly live a life where you're in love, leading with love, flowing love, unconditionally, seeing love, speaking love, thinking love, acting love, being love in every moment. That's tough. But according to Krishna, as he's speaking to Arjuna, there's another path. And those who are living lives of devotional love, bhakti, will merge with the divine as well. Will experience that self-actualization, self-realization as well. That non-dualism, that oneness. But maybe you can't muster up all that devotional love. And Krishna says, it's okay. There's another path to me, to oneness, to union. And it's known as Gyan Yoga. Just like the Gyan Mudra. This is the mudra of knowledge, the mudra of wisdom. And Gyan in the Bhagavad Gita, although it's spelled Jnana, sometimes we see it as Gyan. Gyan. Actually is the path of knowledge, the path of wisdom. So perhaps not living in selfless service and perhaps not living in devotional love, but living instead on a journey of wisdom, of love, of reading the scriptures, even reading the littlest of scriptures. In yoga, Patanjali talks about this in the niyamas, the second branch, the second limb of yoga. First to this concept of svadhyaya, which means self-study. That's true gyan, self-reflection, self-inquiry. Since the answers to every question we could ever ask ourselves rest inside, can we explore ourselves so deeply? Can we unlearn all of our conditioning? And in so doing, merge with the divine, experience that oneness. And so Krishna lays out this beautiful path and says to Arjuna, anyone out there, if they're willing to live in selfless service with no attachment to outcome, if they're willing to live a life of devotional love, being love in every moment, or if they're desiring to study, self-study, study the scriptures, study the soul, and go deeper and deeper and deeper, almost like an intellectual deep dive. These are your paths to merge with the divine. But for those who can't even muster that up, there's Raj Yoga, the fourth yoga. Raj Yoga means the royal path to oneness. Called Raj because once reserved for ancient Indian royalty, exclusively. It's the practice of meditation. Connecting to that oneness through a daily practice. So we can serve, love, study, or practice. And we will merge with the divine. A beautiful line in Eknath Easwaran's translation. I think I have it here someplace. This is in chapter 6, verse 26 and 27. Wherever the mind wanders, restless and diffuse in its search for satisfaction without, lead it within. Train it to rest in the self, capital S. Abiding joy comes to those who still the mind, freeing themselves from the taint of self-will with their consciousness unified. They become one with the divine. It's beautiful. That's chapter 6, verses 26 and 27. And so we are guided in the Bhagavad Gita to choose a path, depending on where we are in life, what's resonating with us, where we are in our crossroads. Choose a path. Pick one. Service, love, study, practice. And what a beautiful conversation to be having in terms of leveling ourselves up. Because whatever's going on in your life, there's one of those pathways, one of those doors that you could open to bring yourself to a higher plane of existence. To live a life where you fully are in joy. Feeling the love of the universe in every moment, even when things suck. Feeling the calm amidst the chaos when news coming into you is not what you really want it to be. And so there's a beautiful deeper dive in the Gita in chapter 11. This is a beautiful experience. You know, we're all familiar with how when Jesus was questioned 2,000 years ago, and whether you are Christian or not, you know, Jesus was questioned, you know, so are you God? You know, what's the deal? They even had that Broadway show, Jesus Christ Superstar, you know, where they were like, prove it. Prove that you are the Son of God. Prove that you are God on earth. That didn't go so well 2,000 years ago. Well, the same kind of situation sort of kind of happens in the Bhagavad Gita, where after Krishna revealing all this deep wisdom, Arjuna is like, still not really convinced. Maybe you could show me your divine form, because I'm still looking at you as a charioteer hanging out with me. And Krishna's like, really? You're going to make me jump through those hoops, Arjuna? I've just rocked your world through 10 chapters of the Gita, and now you're asking me for proof? Arjuna's like, yeah, sort of, could you just like do something, right? With Jesus, it was like turn water to wine, or walk on the water, or, you know, do the thing. And so Arjuna's sort of like 300 years before Jesus. He's trying to put him through the trials and the tests, the divine trials. So Krishna's like, okay, but I'm not going to do anything different here. I'm going to show you my divine form. But I don't have to change anything because I'm always in my divine form. But I'm going to give you cosmic vision. And this is all chapter 11. I'm going to give you divine vision, divine insight. I'm going to let you see who I truly am. And this is known as the Vishvarupa, Vishvarupa. Rupa means form in Sanskrit, and Vishva is universal. And this is the part of the Gita, chapter 11, where Krishna reveals his universal form, essentially blows Arjuna's mind, shows him the 1,000 faces of God, shows him spinning galaxies, holding the sun and the moon and the planets, spinning them in his hands, shows him actually eating all the soldiers on the other side. He becomes giant. His teeth are the size of humans, and he starts chomping all the people on the other side. He says, don't you realize? I control birth, I control death. I control everything. I've created everything, and I dissolve everything. He blows his mind in so many different ways during the Vishvarupa. Arjuna can't handle it. His world is rocked. They say it's like 1,000 suns, suddenly all at once coming up, shattering whatever we could think of. He sees him as all-knowing, omnipresent, everywhere, understanding everything, every color, every season at once, every planet as once. When Oppenheimer created the nuclear bomb, prior to it being used by the United States on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, when they did that first test in the desert, he actually quoted the Gita. He quoted the Vishvarupa. He quoted Krishna in that one setting. Oppenheimer watches the first test of an atomic bomb and then realizes his part in the future of our world. And he says, I am become death. I am become death. Destroyer of worlds. Imagine that. And this is what Krishna says to Arjuna. I'm the creator and the destroyer of all things. It rocks Arjuna's mind so completely, having this divine sight, that he begs Krishna, he begs God, could you reel it back a little bit? Just show me your 8-armed version. The 1,000 suns, spinning the galaxies, seeing everything that has ever been in existence and everything that will ever be. I can't take it. It's too intense. And Krishna says, well, I haven't changed anything about me. I just gave you divine sight. But if you'd like, I'll take it back. With that, he takes it back. This divine sight is known as D, D-H-I, D. It's that insight that we have before inspired thought, before inspired speech, before inspired action. It's that download that we get, DHI, cosmic vision, before we think, speak, or act. It's that spark of transformation. And so he gives him the gift of cosmic vision. But it's too intense. And he takes it back. There are shooting stars happening right now. We would call those miracles. But we can't see them because it's daytime. Are the miracles not happening? No, they're happening. We just can't see them. We have this divine sight. We have this cosmic vision. All of us have it. But we so often are not gifting it to ourselves, not allowing ourselves. We're dimming our light, playing small, walking on eggshells, biting our tongue, holding back our voice. We can give ourselves this gift of D. And a beautiful way for us to sort of practice that is to use the mantra when we meditate, Om Di Ra Yam. So D is cosmic vision. Ra is the fire of wisdom. There are 14 words in Sanskrit for fire. Agni, that's our digestive fire. Digests and cooks our food, cooks our emotions. Tejas, that's the element of fire. If there was like a flame coming out of my palm, I would say, behold, Tejas. Potentially talks about it in the 8 limbs of yoga. Tapas, that's the fire of austerity, burning away all of our excesses. And then there's Ra, which is the fire of wisdom. And Dira is the spiritual warrior saturated in wisdom, in which the fire has burned away everything that no longer serves. And Yam is the vibration of the heart center, the anahata, the unstruck. Om Dira Yam. And when we silently repeat this mantra, Om Dira Yam, we are invoking and awakening our own cosmic vision. We are embracing the spiritual warrior saturated in the wisdom and burning away all that does not serve us. And we are invoking and infusing that wisdom with love, the vibration of love. So we're getting cosmic vision, a wisdom saturating us, and love, all at once. Om Dira Yam. Om Dira Yam. And if we can practice this on a consistent basis, we will awaken our own ability to have our own Vishvarupa, our own universal form that we see, cosmic vision, deepest insights available to us. We don't have to wait for someone to give us permission. We get to give ourselves permission. This is one of the most powerful and important teachings of the Gita. So if you can have 3 takeaways from my time with you, it's all about action. And don't be attached to inaction. And all of your actions, you should realize, are co-creations. And don't think that we are the cause of the results of those actions. Let's do them because we can do them, because we're good at doing them, because they serve others, and not get wound up in the fruit of those actions. Secondly, meditation, so important. Getting still, getting silent. Yogastha kuru karmani. Yogastha. Establish yourself in the present moment. Get still. And then perform action. That stillness, that clarity, that attention before we act, before we speak, before we blurt out, before we take a step. This deep teaching of the Gita is to get still and we'll make more conscious choices. That's why meditation is so valuable, because we cultivate our yogastha. And then lastly, as if there could be a lastly, but for this session, it's the Vishvarupa. And the D, the cosmic insight, the cosmic vision, the divine vision that we all have if we give ourselves permission to awaken it. So let's meditate just for a little bit here, using Om Dira Yam. Om Dira Yam. Settle in. Take a long, slow, deep breath in with me. And ever so gently let that go. Allow your eyelids to gently float closed. Take another long, slow, deep breath in. And release. And ask yourself one sacred question. How can I help others? How can I heal others? How can I serve others using my unique gifts, my special talents, and my native energies? How can I help, heal, and serve others using my native energies? And just allow those answers to flow into your awareness. Essentially, how can I do my duty using my unique gifts and my special powers? And take a long, slow, deep breath in and release it, detached from outcome. You've awakened that question. And now let's surrender into the mantra. Om Dira Yam. Om Dira Yam. Say it out loud with me one time. Om Dira Yam. And now whisper it. Om Dira Yam. And now begin repeating it silently to yourself over and over. And you may drift away to thoughts or sounds or physical sensations. That's okay. As soon as you realize you've drifted away, ever so gently, drift back. And this meditation will be a gentle drifting back and forth, back and forth, settling back upon Om Dira Yam. I'll watch the time. And when you hear my voice, just sit gently with your eyes closed. So let's begin. long, slow, deep breath in. And ever so gently let that go. And let's do that one more time. Long, slow, deep breath in. And gently release it. And let's seal the answer to the question, how can I help, heal, and serve others using my unique gifts and my special talents? Let's seal this meditation. Let's celebrate the awakening of our cosmic vision, our divine insight, by chanting Om, just one time together. Take a long, slow, deep breath in. And when it feels comfortable, you can slowly open your eyes. Welcome back. Namaste.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this lesson, then I think you'll love this video right here.